Okay. Hello and good evening, everyone. I call this public meeting of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors to order on Thursday, October 24th at 6:30 p.m. And have to do this. Uh, I would like to remind our community that the purpose of our board meetings is to conduct the business of the district first, and for everyone to learn about the district in a safe and productive manner. And this evening, there are no community members that are signed up to provide comments tonight. And before we jump into our next item, next week is Halloween, and I was gonna save this for last, but since we have some members of the audience here, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna crack a joke right now because why not? It's a Thursday evening. Some folks have had long days, some long weeks. Halloween is coming up, so the joke is, what is a vampire's least favorite meal? A steak. Huh. Okay. So, yeah, right. Yeah, I did it. Yep. Right. 1 point for Kathy. No. So we are going to resume our agenda, and or I can just keep cracking jokes all night and call it an evening, but I'll spare everyone. But again, I just like to thank our community members who might be watching online, and our special guests who are also here in the audience today. And I know we'll be just hearing some wonderful presentations this evening. So before we move on to those items, I would like to begin with our native land acknowledgement. Vice Chair Benaloga will lead the acknowledgement this evening.
We acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we call the North Clackamas School District rests on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Malala, and the Clackamas. We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn, work, and be a community on this land. And we offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families, both past and present, and that will affect those in the future, and honor the resilience and revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Thank you, Vice Chair Benaloga. And now we will move on to our flag salute. Director Wachter, will you lead the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, board, moving on to our minutes in the board packet. Hello. Okay, just want to make sure. And I want to acknowledge we do have Director Kemp, who is also listening in. So just want to make sure that we also acknowledge him, that he's here. So where am I? Okay, in the board packet, you will find the minutes of the October 10th, 2024 meeting of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Chair, I make a motion to approve the October 10th, 2024 minutes.
Wachter, second.
Great. Properly moved by Director McVeigh and seconded by Director Wachter. Thank you. Is there discussion? Okay. I call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. And all those, please say no. Okay. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, board. Moving on to our consent agenda. In the board packet, you will find our consent agenda for this evening's meeting. The items on the consent agenda are employment changes and a travel request for the Clackamas High School girls basketball. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? And please read all of the items.
Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes items A, employment changes, and B, travel requests for Clackamas High School girls basketball.
Was there a second?
Bauer, second.
Okay, it's properly moved by Director Wachter and seconded by Director Bauer. I now call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And all those that oppose, no? Okay, the motion passes with a vote of 7-0 unanimously. Thank you, board. And now we are going to move on to our Native American Heritage Month. This is a proclamation. And so, board members, you should have the proclamation in front of you, and we will go ahead and read this for the record.
Whereas National Native American Heritage Month celebrates and recognizes the accomplishments of the peoples who were original inhabitants, explorers, stewards, and settlers of the United States, and
Whereas for more than 500 years, Native communities across Americas have demonstrated resilience and resistance in the face of violent efforts to separate them from their land, culture, language, and each other. They remain at the forefront of movements to protect our earth and the life it sustains, and
Whereas the North Clackamas School District is deeply committed to equity and inclusion. This stance includes the cultural affirmation of our students, staff, parents, and community members who identify as Native or Indigenous people. And
Whereas the North Clackamas School District strives to close the equity and outcome gaps for Native American and Alaskan Native students through policies and practices that reflect the experience of Indigenous peoples, ensure greater access and opportunity, and honor Native and Indigenous roots, history, heritage, and contributions, and
Whereas our community is better because of the diversity of our population and, oh no.
Okay, thank you. And is there a motion to approve the proclamation? Director Bauer?
I propose and I move approval that the board adopt the proclamation recognizing November 2024 as Native American Heritage Month in North Clackamas School District.
McVeigh, second.
Okay, thank you. Properly moved by Director Bauer and seconded by Director McVeigh. And I call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
I.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all those that oppose, please say no. I think that is a unanimous pass, vote of 7-0. Let's see. And now I would actually like to give an opportunity for Director Benaloga to make a comment, and several comments actually, on this proclamation.
Thank you. Native American communities in Oregon have a rich history and have made significant accomplishments across various fields. Cultural revitalization, many tribes, including the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and the Klamath tribes, have worked tirelessly to revitalize their languages, traditions, and cultural practices, preserving their heritage for future generations. Environmental stewardship. Tribes have played crucial roles in land and water conservation, often leading efforts to restore ecosystems, manage fisheries, and advocate for sustainable practices that honor traditional ecological knowledge. Education initiatives. Tribes have established educational programs that incorporate Indigenous knowledge and history, ensuring that both Native and non-Native students learn about the rich history of Oregon's tribes. And art and cultural expression. Native artists in Oregon have gained recognition for their work in traditional crafts, contemporary art, and storytelling, enriching the cultural landscape of the state. Each meeting, we honor and acknowledge the Native land our community resides on. We are fortunate to live and work here. As a district, we bring our Native community together through Indigenous student unions and a Native parent group. These accomplishments and efforts reflect the resilience and strength of Native American communities in North Clackamas and our commitment to elevating their stories. And I just want to say that I appreciate being in a district where we do elevate those voices and those stories and help all of us learn about the Native culture that we have here in North Clackamas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Would anyone like to add anything to that wonderful comment? Well, I just like to add that several years ago, this was actually at Clackamas High School, and I know Director Bauer and some of the board members attended this just beautiful, really wonderful. It was an intergenerational event at Clackamas High School that was actually put on by our Native families and our students, and there were arts and crafts, there was storytelling by Ed Edmo, who's just a really renowned tribal elder here in our state, just really also nationally renowned for a lot of his work. And it was just a beautiful space. And I just want to share a very quick story, but I met a grandmother who was just, basically had grandchildren and children in our district. And she said, this was the first time that she attended a district event where her grandkids were able to, partake in something that was just so enriching to their culture. So I just remember that grandma just coming up to me and just sharing that. And it just really not only just warms my heart, but also, signifies that there's so many cultures and communities that makes North Clackamas what we are. We're incredibly diverse. And, I'm very proud of all of us for continuing to lift up all of our communities and various voices. So thank you, board. And now, therefore, maybe let me backtrack. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the North Clackamas School District hereby proclaims the month of November 2024 as Native American Heritage Month in the North Clackamas School District and encourages all residents to honor Native American history and culture. Adopted this 24th day of October 2024. Thank you. And now we are going to move ahead to our second agenda item of the evening. And this is going to be a presentation regarding flavored tobacco and vaping in Oregon. And we have some very special guests with us this evening. And I will like to welcome our Chief of Staff, Tiffany Showerman, who will introduce our guests. Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Chair, Board. It's good to see you all. Tonight I have the pleasure of being joined by two youth who represent the Happy Valley area. I have David here, closest to me. David attends LaSalle High School and is a resident in the city of Happy Valley, and Dom, who is homeschooled and lives in the city of Happy Valley also. Thank you. They're both members of the Happy Valley Youth Council. The Youth Council is an advisory board to the City Council in the city of Happy Valley. In 2023, they began focusing on the impacts of flavored tobacco, products like e-cigarettes, vaping, other devices that are similar, and their negative effects on their community. So they worked together with the City of Happy Valley City Council, and in February of 2024, the City of Happy Valley City Council adopted a formal stance against flavored tobacco being sold in the state. They will deliver a brief presentation, have some supporters here from the City of Happy Valley Youth Council, also from the American Cancer Society and Clackamas County Public Health. So they have a full team here supporting them. They will have some time for answering your questions if you'd like, and then we'll be seeking your inclusion in your legislative agenda, some kind of prohibition language about flavored tobacco. You will not have to discuss that tonight. That's something that you can discuss at your November board meeting if you'd like, or during discussion tonight. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for your time tonight. My name's Dominic Pinovi, and I'm a member of the Happy Valley Youth City Council. So we as a youth council have greatly focused on youth mental health and well-being, and a large part of that has involved substance abuse. In September of 2023, we met with Clackamas County Health and Northwest Family Services, and they spoke with us on the impact of flavored tobacco on youth and kind of laid out those real numbers for us. For instance, in 2022, 12.5% of Clackamas County 11th graders reported using e-cigarettes, and 72.5% of those 11th graders who use tobacco state that they first used these flavor products. And so having spoken with them, we began to plan for our annual youth town hall in November. We decided to focus on youth well-being, and as a part of that, we asked representatives from Clackamas County Health to come and present. We had a great turnout, and many Happy Valley teens were able to hear about the dangers of vaping and the effects it can have on your overall well-being. The speakers from Clackamas County Health explained how Big Tobacco uses bright colors and fun flavors to make vaping more attractive. And by their predatory marketing techniques, tobacco companies just try to trap our youth in this lifetime of addiction, and they just see them as the next generation of consumers. However, we see our youth differently. We see them as the guardians of tomorrow. And so it was with this theme in mind that we looked forward to our annual youth summit in Salem. We met with other youth councils around Oregon and learned that they've kind of been focusing on these same issues. One common topic was substance abuse. And so we found that they're also working to ban flavored tobacco in their schools and just kind of improve overall well-being of our youth by doing so. And so we, the Happy Valley Youth Council, want our generation to become these guardians of tomorrow that they're called to be. And so we'd like you to support this ban on flavored tobacco. So with that, I'd like to introduce my fellow council member, David.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and distinguished board members, and all our guests in attendance. For those of you who don't know me, my name is David Sharian, and I'm a youth council member for the city of Happy Valley, as she said. As a representative of Happy Valley's youth and the youth of the greater Oregon community, I come as an advocate for the health and well-being of our young adults. The tobacco and vape industries spend millions of dollars on advertisements and marketing to promote flavors of their products that are particularly appealing and are targeted at a wide variety of vulnerable consumers, primarily the youth. Teenagers are getting hooked at record levels to this highly unhealthy hit of nicotine, which has detrimental effects on the human body that disrupts school, mental health, sports, relationships with friends, family, and community, and their overall well-being. The Happy Valley Youth Council cares very much and has worked very hard to more deeply understand this issue. Last November, as Dominic said, we held a youth town hall to raise awareness to the mental health issues among youth in our community. One of the key factors we found were these vapes, e-cigarettes, and other flavored tobacco products pumped with nicotine. I've witnessed firsthand the horrible effects of these flavored tobacco products. At our local high schools, students are using these flavored tobacco products in back hallways, sidewalks, and mostly in bathrooms. The Happy Valley Youth Council will continue to fight for our youth, and that is why I'm proud to support any work on this issue to safeguard our Happy Valley and Oregon youth. Working on this issue says yes to our future generations, and yes to promoting our youth and their health and their quality of life. Thank you all.
Right. So Dominic and David remain available for any questions you may have or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here and providing us with this very, very informational and important topic. I am going to ask our board if we have any questions or comments. This is some time for discussion. Director Bauer.
I'll volunteer. Thank you for the great presentation. You did a great job. You were relaxed. You had facts, and I appreciate that. And it came across that you care about, your youth, your fellow students. I was going to ask, where you have been seeing it happen maybe most at schools. And then I was going to ask, what is your ask then for us? But thank you for bringing this to our attention. I am aware of the advertising, and I know, that it is a problem, but thank you for bringing it to our attention now. Appreciate it.
Yes, of course, Director Bauer. We understand this is a very great and imminent issue. I see it in my local high school, LaSalle. Even though we have a small student body, we see I can walk into a bathroom after lunch, and even though they have vape detectors, students find ways to bypass that. And so what we're looking for with you all is some kind of stance against these issues and more assertive measures to help our youth against these awful products.
And also, it's been brought at a state level to the attention of some of our legislators. And so we've gotten our city council to stand behind this. They signed a resolution, so they formally support this. And that's kind of what we're looking for from you guys in the coming year of legislation, just supporting that and making it known to our legislators that this is an issue that we care about, especially in our schools.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really great explanations. Director McVeigh.
The county can do something about it, can't they? Can the county ban the use of or the selling of vape? I thought Washington County had done that.
I can't answer that myself, but if you don't mind my looking to the audience, would you like to weigh in? Would you be willing to? Sure, yeah. Great, come on up. This is our colleague Mark from the Clackamas County Public Health.
Hi, thank you. Mark Chorney, Clackamas County Public Health. Yeah, it's true that counties can take that kind of action. That has happened in Multnomah County and Washington County. However, in those counties have been tied up with legal procedures, unfortunately. So the actual implementation of that has been on hold. In terms of Clackamas County, I think our board has sort of saw this as an issue that should be maybe handled at a state level.
Great, thank you. Absolutely. And Director Kemp is also on the phone, I believe, if he has any questions or comments. Don't want to miss him.
Yeah, I'm curious if you can, hopefully you can hear me. If legislation passed at the state level, would it face some of the same, and I don't know that you can speak to this from the Multnomah or Clackamas County Health, but would a state law preventing this face some of the same legal challenges that are happening at the county level in Washington and Multnomah counties?
Yeah, thank you for your question. I'm not sure, I suppose, on how to answer that. I actually might look to my colleague, Jamie. Do you have a thought on that, Jamie? Yeah.
The question in the courts right now is whether they're preempted at the state level, whether or not the counties can act competitively.
Oh.
There's no question that the state can.
No.
So if the state passes this, there should not be a legal challenge in the same way.
Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and repeat that so that it's on the microphone.
Thank you.
For
Yes.
recording. That Jamie from the American Cancer Society shared that there seems to be no question that states have the authority. The question is, if the state doesn't take that authority, do counties hold that authority?
I see. Yeah. So question for the students. Have you engaged other student councils or other student groups at other high schools to advocate with their legislators about passing a state law?
Yeah, so like I said last year at our kind of annual youth summit, we talked with a lot of other youth councils from across Oregon, and they're all kind of also supporting this. And a lot of them have gotten their cities to sign resolutions or are working to do so. And so we have a lot of support at county levels. And really, I think at this point, it's kind of just across the country become this big issue. But especially from our fellow youth advisory boards, we are seeing a lot of support.
That's good. I mean, that always makes when there's a lot of broad support, it makes it a lot easier for legislators at the state level to pass something. You know, they're gonna, it's a winning issue for them to vote on.
And Director Kemp, just to also address that, what is a powerful sign to our state lawmakers is unity. Students are unified, knowing this is a significant issue, and we need unity within our cities, our school district boards like yourselves. And it is critical that we are a united front in the face of these challenges.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Director Wachter?
Thank you, Chair. Dominique and David, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your professionalism and your heart for our community and our youth. It's really important, and I'm really just delighted to meet both of you in this setting. Thank you for your service also on the council. That's really important. So I have a question for you, and then I have a question for Tiffany as well. So first to you, probably David and Dominic, what actions is the city of Happy Valley taking to make it harder for youth to obtain flavored vape products?
Well, there's not a ton at a city level that you really can do to you know, in a legal perspective. To be perfectly honest, in Happy Valley, we do have a lot of shops that sell tobacco products and vaping products, and like I said, the city of Happy Valley is very willing to support legislation against it, but there's really not a ton that we can do, and that's, I think, why we really have to rush this to the state legislators to get it on their radar, because they can do something about it.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, and also to speak to that, our city has provided that resolution, taking a stance. And also another thing I want to point out how proud I am of our Happy Valley Police Department tackling this issue when these vape shops are selling to underage minors. So we're taking significant action, and that's what it takes to tackle this.
Yeah, thank you. My follow-up question is, because the city is sort of stuck waiting for higher levels of government authority to take action, what can we do in education around this issue? What public awareness campaigns, what peer-led groups could we be, or are we featuring to talk about the harm and the detriment of vaping products to our students?
Thanks for the question. Prevention is at the core of much of our health instruction and much of our daily action in school districts. The prevention of tobacco and other drug use is at the core of a lot of what our high schools and middle schools are doing. We do have youth groups in our middles and high schools that are focused on health and the well-being of students. Northwest Family Services conducts some work within our high schools, in particular on the prevention end of tobacco and tobacco usage. We're investigating the notion of vape detectors, as you were mentioned earlier. That's in very early investigation time period. Look probably over to Petra to see if there's anything additional we should add at the high school level that you can.
If I might add, there are also so I actually serve on another board that is the youth advisory board for the Catch My Breath program, which is still kind of in testing phases. We're developing a curriculum, but basically what that would do is it's a peer-led program, kind of like you were talking about, where peers are, especially high schoolers, go and teach middle schoolers on the issues, and also trained directors can run the course. So there are courses out there, and I would encourage you to look into that program, especially as we further develop it. But yeah, so there's definitely like support out there. And you know, when smoking was a big thing in schools, they really pushed the no smoking campaign, and now a lot of people don't smoke. And so I think it's just really important to get kind of a no vaping campaign going in our schools.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you for responding to this question. That's where I was going. Is what can we do more? I mean, I don't necessarily understand where Northwest Family Services is landing their content, but maybe they're in health classes. That's maybe where it shows up. But the bar graph with 11th graders at 75% use or trying vaping products seems like we have something more to do here. So I'll leave that to you, Tiffany, to think about how that might look, but I would strongly encourage some attention to a peer-led campaign, perhaps.
Thank you.
Thank you. And really great questions and discussion and answers also from our guests about this topic. I couldn't agree more. I think that it is very, very important for us as a community. You know, we all share the same air, right? We all breathe the same air. That may sound a little gross, but we do. And so it is very important to have clean air for everybody in our neighborhoods. And you know, that slide too about, right, how just big tobacco and that industry have, they've morphed and they've changed over time in terms of their product placement, their marketing, and really kind of targeting, you know, this younger generation. I see it even when I was growing up, kind of that transition of a lot of these, unfortunately, you know, negative influences that can absolutely have a negative impact on our youth. So thank you for just bringing this topic to us. I know that this is up for discussion, and I think we have some next steps to do just within our school district to consider various options. And I'm also looking at our director, Shireman, who she's the one, the point person that we will be working with closely to see how we can continue working on this topic. So I'm sorry if I'm kind of cutting in and out, but thank you all again for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up on our agenda is agenda number 3, and that is our human resources hiring update. This is a report. So if folks are ready, I would like to welcome our Chief of Human Resources and Business Services, Michelle Riddell, who will introduce our guests. Yeah. Well, hello, Michelle and wonderful team. Welcome. And we can go ahead and get started if you wanted to introduce yourselves.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. We're pleased to be here to give you our update on hiring, recruitment, and retention for the 24-25 school year. So I want to have my team introduce themselves, and also just make a note that one of our team members, Dr. Joe Bridgman, is not here tonight. He's our Associate Director of Licensed Staff.
Hi, I'm Will Ruley, the Director of HR.
Dr. Keela Boyer, Associate Director of HR.
Good evening, Alma Morales Galicia, Associate Director of Human Resources supporting classified staff.
You got it? Sorry, come on. Whoop. Already off to a strong start. So I want to say that we're excited to be here to present on our successful hiring season. I think that when you look at people and culture, which is the current strategic point that we're focusing on for a district, this fits well with HR. And you'll hear today about a lot of our recruitment and retention efforts. You'll hear about our efforts to diversify our workforce. And along with that, you'll also hear about the professional growth opportunities that we provide for individuals around our district. I'm going to start off and talk about our licensed staff hiring update. This hiring season, we hired 155 licensed staff. That's about 5 more than we did last year. That means 95 of those individuals were completely new to the district. 60 were temporary staff, and many of those were hired from temporary positions back into permanent positions. I have a breakdown there so you can see what jobs we hired for in the realm of licensed. Majority are classroom teachers. You see a pretty equal split between secondary and elementary. The next biggest group is our special education staff, and that's followed by English language development staff, and then support staff outside of the classroom who also work in our district. I also wanted to break down a little bit of where these individuals are going. And so you can see here that of the 155 staff, 70 went to elementary, 41 to high school, 30 to middle, and 14 to the district office. The other thing I wanted to mention is that in addition to hiring the 155 licensed staff, we also did process 270 employment shifts. These are things like people changing positions, increases of FTE, or transferring between buildings. Each one of these represents an individual kind of person that we work through the system. And that's about 50 more than we did last year. So we had a little bit more internal kind of movement than we did before, which is good. It's individuals finding places that they feel that they fit better within the district and not leaving the district. Overall, that would mean that licensed staff processed 525 employment shifts this year. And I want to send a kudos out to our licensed hiring team because that's an incredible amount of work to make sure that they can get all of that done so that we can start the school year and have payroll go out accurately there in September. The other thing I wanted to mention is our current openings. For last time that I presented to the board, we had 13 openings still in license we were working to fill. This year we only have 6.5. And of those 6.5, all but one of them represent new FTE that was either granted after the school year started or early resignations. And so we almost started the school year 100% staff in the area of licensed. The next slide up here has to do with resignations. Every year we look at the number of resignations that we have. Why are licensed staff leaving our district? Last year we had about the same amount before, about 100 staff members who left the district. You'll see that all of the reasons pretty much remain the same. So we have retirements at 29. We have leaving for another district at 30. The one spike that we had this last year that we didn't have before was moving. And I do want to let you know that means moving out of an area where they couldn't still teach in our area. So going to other states or areas farther away. And when we look at people accepting positions in other districts, even though it isn't a sharp decline, we still can see in the last 3 years that number is dropping, which is good. We're heading in the right direction, but we continue to explore what's causing people to leave our district, and we hope that a lot of the current work with our employment engagement survey will give us more information that we can use to kind of tackle that number. And with that, I'll turn things over to Alma to talk about classified staff.
So I will be sharing information about our classified staff. The information you see in here is as of October 1st, we hired 122 new classified staff. So that is new to North Clackamas School District. Out of those, we processed about over 360 employment changes, and so that includes internal transfers and any changes that there might have been. Out of the 122 new staff that we hired, 69 of those went to instructional support, 11 to administrative support, and 42 to operations support. As of today, we have 13 vacancies at the elementary level, 8 at the secondary level, and 17 for departments, which includes care and transportation as well. For our transportation department, when we look at this, our recruiter Shannon has continued to partner with community organizations such as WorkSafe, Goodwill, and Touch a Truck event. This has resulted in us hiring, again, as of October 1st, 19 new bus drivers. Out of those 19, 14 of them have completed their training and are actually driving a route. 5 of those drivers are in training, and as of today, we made a couple more offers. So if all complete that training successfully, we will be having no open routes. We will continue to hire bus drivers for standby routes. We also hire 1 van driver, and currently we have no vacancies for these positions. We also hired 2 new bus aides, and we will continue to hire for this position as the year goes. As you may recall, last year we had some challenges in hiring in these 3 specific areas: care, nutrition services, and custodial. And our recruiter, Drew, prioritized these areas and continued to work closely with our hiring administrators for this department. And so for the 2024-2025 school year, we were able to add 12 new positions for nutrition services as a result of the community eligibility provision. Most of these vacancies have been filled. As of today, we have 5 nutrition services vacancies, and we believe that we'll be able to fill those shortly. For care, as you may be aware, there was a new site added for Duncan, and so that created 3 new positions. We, as of today, have 7 vacancies, and most of these are recent transfers or resignations. For our custodial staff, we continue to hire from within, and so we have focused on increasing our custodial substitute pool. And one of the strategies that we did is that we increased the rate for the substitute custodial position, and we have seen more candidates applied for that. When we take a look at the reasons for resignation for our classified staff, we continue to see that the majority are due to accepting another position that is within education or outside of education. And it is followed by retirement, then family or home responsibilities.
So now on to our administrators. We hired 14 new to North Clackamas administrators, as you met last month, and we had 14 internal transfers. Okay, so we had a slide that doesn't appear to be in there. So let me share. One of the things we wanted to share with you this year is retention percentages. So we looked at our licensed and classified percentages. And for this last school year, 23-24, we had an 89% retention for our licensed staff. And the year before that, we were at 90% retention. And the year before that, we were at 90. So those are, so the last 3 years, 90, 90, and then 89 this last year. And those are actually really good retention rate. Of course, we always want to increase that. But when we compare it to the national teacher retention rate for 21-22, the national is 84%. So comparing that to 90 and 89, we feel good about that. And of course, we'll continue to look at how we can improve our retention rate. We also looked at classified, and so for the last 3 years, this last year, 23-24, we were at an 80% retention, 84 the previous year, and 79 the year before that. So that has kind of bounced up and down, 79, 84, and 80. So in those areas, we worked with our association most recently when we negotiated to really increase our salary schedule and also provide some additional professional development for our paraeducators and try to provide more support in our schools. And so, that is a work in progress. We've just started the school year. So we are hoping to, try and slow down our turnover in our paraeducators. But that, I think when you look at our retention and seeing a little bit of a dip from last year, that's something that we're definitely going to focus on this year. So. Okay, our demographics. So for this year, when we look at our staff of color, our licensed staff, we're at 17.1. Classified overall staff, we're at 26%. In our administrators, we're at 32.1. And then overall for all staff, we're at 22%. And that compares to our students of color at 46.6% of our overall student body.
Okay, on to recruitment and retention strategies. So I wanted to highlight one of the things that we were able to do, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, was to have a transportation recruiter and a recruiter for all the rest of our positions. And so that's Shannon as transportation and Drew for all the rest of the positions. And they're really a dynamic duo and really have innovative strategies and just are go-getters and figure out who we should partner with in the community. They went to businesses last year and posted flyers. They'll go to Goodwill events anywhere they can. They do social media. So it is just really great to have them on board to actually be of age and experiences where they can have more innovative strategies in place. So a couple of other things to highlight from last year. We had an Oregon Department of Education grant for bilingual pathways that enabled us to support 2 of our international visiting teachers with a TSPC licensing fees, which can be pretty steep, and their transcript translation fees, which is also another big cost. That can be about $500 to $600 just to have their transcripts translated. We also had several of our current teachers still finishing their dual language dual language immersion teacher preparation program. So we were able to give them some scholarships. And we had a halftime pathway mentor. She really helped to do some more research. She went to meet with our staff on site. She helped troubleshoot with them and encourage them. She let them know of some scholarships that were available and sent reminders and nudges to apply for those scholarships. We also hosted last spring a virtual student teacher event. So we have student teachers from all different universities. I think we got Portland State is the highest university, and I think George Fox may be the second university for where our student teachers come from, but really did an outreach to all of our colleges of education that had student teachers and invited them to attend. So our North Clackamas administrators volunteered their time to come and do kind of interviews with them and also to prep them up for things that administrators are looking for. And there was a whole presentation too about North Clackamas, like why North Clackamas, or discover North Clackamas right every day. What sets North Clackamas apart? And so they were able to present that and actually get some teachers identified to hire. We also thankful to Michelle, Will, and to the other people that were able to get the agreement signed for us to post hard to fill positions in the spring. That led us to get ahead of some other districts in the area and be able to offer them letters of intent. So that is a letter of intent saying we will hire you for a position for the upcoming school year. And then once the post actually opens and we make the official offer. School psych interns. We did a couple of things. One is we increased the stipend amount. The 2 years before, we actually didn't have any. So also needed to figure out what the reason was. Michelle's always great at deep diving and comparing us to other school districts and how much we pay and how much they pay. So that increase was helpful. And then I got to collaborate with Yvette Lightbourne to host a virtual information session for school psych interns. So I was really more this is about North Clackamas, and she was more of this is what school psychology looks like and what you would be doing as an intern in North Clackamas School District. So we did end up hiring 5 school psychology interns for this year. So to go from none to 5, we felt pretty good about that. We have our amazing Sabin Schellenberg Center. We want to continue our collaborative efforts to work with CTE teachers. We want to set up a time for Drew and I to go in to let them know about opportunities available in North Clackamas School District. I'm also communicating with our other school districts in the area that have really robust CTE programs as well, which is Hillsborough, and then just recently last week connected with somebody from the Delaware Department of Education that works with their CTE programs and got to hear what things that they're doing differently, which is helpful when we hear it from states that also have unions. So it was great to connect. I think that's it. Oh, I wanted to highlight the hard to fill positions that we offered letters of intent to. That was dual language immersion, speech language pathologists, special education teachers, and school psychologists. Recruitment strategies. So this last year was our 2nd annual North Clackamas School District Job Fair at Clackamas Community College. Cannot happen without the amazing support of our staff at North Clackamas, willing to come out from 4 to 6 to engage with prospective candidates for classified positions and licensed positions. They also facilitated interviews, screening interviews. There were over 80 attendees this year, which was good for a rainy day in Portland. And then we also had 42 screening interviews completed. That's a combination of classified and licensed staff. We also participate each year in the Oregon Professional Educators Fair. I don't even know what year we're on now. It's got to be at least 20 something. Remembering when I graduated from college, so at least 20 something. It's usually hosted at the Oregon Convention Center, and we really rally. I see a couple of people in this room that participated. Kalia and Patricia assisted with interviews, which is very, very helpful to be able to have a personal touch with candidates. We have an interview room. They engage. It's a great space. It feels good. The energy is great. And then we have other staff that are in our booth with our little signs up for secondary, whatever the areas are, just ready to engage with people. If we didn't have time to interview them, then they engaged with them, let us know. We had a little code that we could put on their resume so that we knew that somebody could follow up with them. Then Drew, as our recruitment specialist, scanned all of those resumes in separately. And names took a lot of time, but he did that. And so that is something that we still are able to go back to when we're looking for some of our hard to fill positions. Another part was Drew really came in and wanted to focus on how to improve the rates of classified fills. And so worked on developing classified career connections. Was held at Milwaukee High School. He invited the hiring managers and really promoted that out. I think that even went out on Spotify. And so was able to have hiring managers there, and Shannon was there and talking about our positions. Thank you to the superintendent's office. We have Chromebooks for human resources recruitment. And so he took the Chromebooks. They were offered application assistance. Really wanted to remove any barriers that people have for completing applications. That is returning again this year, with the first one being next week on the 29th at Milwaukee High School. So that is being posted on Meta, and I don't think we did Spotify this time, but it's getting out there. Also, all of these efforts and advertising and all the things that we have to do could not be done without our collaboration with our community, our communications department. We are small but mighty, I would say. They are able to put things on our website when we need highlighted. They'll do other things like Spotify ads. Curtis is amazing at doing a 30-second Spotify ad with us on the fly that can then be posted. And so, yeah, it's really the part about North Clackamas that I think I appreciate being here. This is year 3, is that everybody wants to make a collective impact to make our district a positive place for students and families and a positive place to come to work.
All right. I just wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity to come and present and tell you about how the start has gone. I also want to say that in my time in this department, and I have been here the longest, in our time in this department, this has been the strongest start we've had to the year so far. And it's been something that has been echoed by our associations when it comes to having people in classrooms and not having subs on that first day. And I think while we don't have a perfect start this year, I do think over this time, we're moving in the correct direction, and that's a team effort, as Dr. Boyer talked about, from communications, from our work with our finance department to make sure we can get our FTE allotments out sooner, to the development of new software so that way we can better plan for future years. Everything is pushing us in a direction to where we can be more competitive than the other districts around us at making sure that we get people here and that when they're here, they stay here. And now we'll open it up to questions.
Great. Thank you. That was just an excellent presentation. Lots and lots of really good information and data. And I now turn it over to our board members for questions and comments. And I see Director McVeigh and Director Bauer, you'll go next.
You have to follow me for once. Great presentations. Curious on our Grow Your Own, what are the numbers in that?
Speak to that. I forgot to add that to the slide. So right now we have about 10 staff in our Grow Your Own program pathway. We're trying to grow it. The challenge with that is identifying a sustainable funding source. And so we had hoped that we would be able to apply for the Oregon Department of Education GYO grant, and just found out yesterday that they are not going to open it until winter 2025. They're giving the current grantees another year on it. So we're still trying to do research, still trying to figure out what we can, but the candidates that are currently still in our Grow Your Own program are for dual language immersion, special education, I think it's high school math, and one counselor.
10 is still good. So, thank you.
Thank you, Director Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Wei. How is the teacher candidate program coming out of the colleges? Has it gotten any better in the last year or so?
I'll speak to that. Having been a teacher preparation director at one point in time, we just all came from the American Association of School Personnel Conference last week in Seattle, so got to collaborate with and hear from a lot of colleagues. So it is, the teacher preparation challenge is nationwide, so it's not just here in Oregon. I know being in schools, pre-COVID, there were some people that opted out of the position. Even administrators were saying it's too much, too many requirements. And then post-COVID, there were people opting out. So I think that the colleges of education are trying to figure out how to get more students in, and I think that allows them to have partnerships with our school districts. And so we will definitely be working with our colleges of education to see how we can partner, how they can provide some funding, because if we have current classified staff that would like to become licensed staff, or if we have current licensed staff that want to add some of those hard to fill endorsements like special education, then trying to rally around them and get them support from colleges of education.
Okay, so there's still shortages, and we knew it was nationwide. So you are fighting that too.
Yes.
But it seems like you're really thinking outside the box. You're doing more different things every year. So I want to commend you for that. I think it was last year you hired these roving subs.
Yes.
And you had, was it 8 of them or something? How's that working?
Yes.
And I can speak to that. We don't have rover subs this year. The reason behind that is because our transition to ESS, and what we have known is that transition to ESS has increased our fill rates, and those fill rates, having those high fill rates helps with our employee satisfaction, because that was one of the biggest things when we were at bargaining a couple years ago. They talked about the biggest thing they wanted support with is just the feeling that I can take a day off and not have to worry about whether or not there'll be someone in my classroom.
Mm-hmm. I remember another thing that you did was make the salaries comparable between districts. And I think maybe that's helped too. When, people were comparing, we were taking things out and, keeping, anyway, that probably helped also. Good. On the classified, so what is your highest need right now? The buses are pretty much filled. It's care, and that is an additional program. And we know that care programs have been closing too. So
I would say that we actually had a pretty successful hiring year when it comes to classified. Classified world is very unique because our people are always looking for either more hours or either a change. So we are constantly seeing people transferring to new positions, sometimes transferring outside of education as well. So it is a revolving door. We did see an increase in candidates, whereas last year, many of our postings were not having enough of a candidate pool. This year, we did not have that problem. A lot of the vacancies that we currently have are also new additions of temporary FTE, such as early literacy grant that we have with nutrition services, with the provision for eligibility that also included that. So I think it's one of the things that we focused is how do we continue to have candidates so that when these vacancies come up, we have somebody already on that pool and we can move fast within that. So.
yeah, and so there are good reasons for transfers, and I'm glad you reminded me. People need to be happy in their job. Sometimes you hear from the community they miss this person so much, but you have to give that person the right to choose their jobs too. So, but thank you for a lot of hard work. Thank you. And getting great staff.
Thank you. Yes. Vice Chair Benaloga?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for all the information. I did have a question. I know that this is a lot of work. I have a question on the classified resignation, accepting other positions. 72, what do you think? Do you have an idea of why people are leaving? Is it hours? Is it, and it says accepting other positions. Are they possibly accepting other positions that are in the district? I'm assuming they're not, right? So what do we know about people that are leaving? Is it looking for full-time employment? Is it looking for better pay? What do we know they would leave for?
I think it would say it's all of the above. In many cases, there's not something that stands out the most with classified. When we look at the different positions that we have, it's not just instructional support, but it's also administrative support. And so it is really hard to track the exact reason. And so it is very generic as accepting other positions, but that may mean another position in a different field, another position maybe in a different district that may be closer to home or completely outside of education. So it varies on that. And so this is how we are able to narrow it down as much as possible.
Do you find that because many of the positions are not 40 hours a week and they're not full-time, is that a real barrier to finding people for those positions?
It would be in, so if we think about paraeducators, which is where we have the highest classified staff, many of them are looking for the full-time position. But when we look at nutrition services or other positions, we do a lot of the hiring for within our community. So we have a lot of parents that they're not looking for a full-time position. They're just looking for hours, while kiddos are in school. So it does definitely vary on that. I would not say that having them all full-time would be the answer to all of our vacancies because it does vary depending on the department and the needs and what our community is looking for.
All right, thank you. And I know this is a tremendous amount of work, keeping people employed, keeping people happy, wanting people to stay in North Clackamas. And I really appreciate all that you do to make sure and ensure that we have as many of our positions filled as possible. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, Director Dobson.
We're all piling on Alma now.
I'm sorry for that.
I'm ready.
But I think we all recognize that the area with the most instability in our staff has been classified over the last 3 to 5 years. And so there was one follow-up question I had for you, which was, are we attempting to capture data on whether classified staff are leaving for higher pay?
Yes, we are. I think as we look every year, this is the second year that we do this presentation, but as we prepare for this and as we look at, we are finding ways to identify and get more clear and concise. So I do work with Will to take a look at those resignations and see how we can continue to provide more of a distinctive reason so that we can then target that.
Okay, I just didn't see it listed here on the chart, so I wondered.
The many of the reasons that are in here is what is listed on our separation of employment form. And so one of the things that we'll be focusing on this year is exit surveys. And so that's where they're able to give us more detailed information. So our goal is going to be that next year we'll be looking at that information as well, so that then in addition to this chart, we can maybe provide more information based on that.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for, because we can only try to solve the problems that, that we see in front of us. So, all the information that we can get is valuable. So thanks for collecting that.
Director Walker.
Thank you, Chair. Just real briefly, like that is exactly the question to ask around exit interviews and really getting down to brass tacks. I know, having worked in healthcare and having really faced front on the shortage of pharmacy technicians, for instance, we have to know why they're leaving. And if it is pay, then I know it may not be possible in some situations and in some industries, but boy, trying to be as competitive as possible to keep them and retain them. It's all in the information contained within the exit interview. So thank you for pursuing that.
I'm sorry, Michelle. I saw you grab that. Did you want to respond or?
We we send exit surveys, and so I think we're looking at maybe redesigning it, because we don't get as many people as we'd like, and I'm not sure if it's because it's too many questions. So we're kind of looking at just rethinking it and seeing if we can't get more information or more people to fill it out to tell us what those reasons are.
The other thing I would add is that I'm encouraged by the work that's been done with our employee engagement, because I think one thing you can look at what's happening that's causing people to leave, but the other thing you can do is try to figure out where there are patterns where people are staying. What's happening in the buildings where people aren't leaving and what's causing them? What's the relationship they're getting with the other people that are in the building, and how can we work to make that more consistent in all of our buildings? Because a lot of times, even if I can go someplace else and get more money, if I enjoy the environment I am and I enjoy the people I work with, that can almost be a stronger draw to keep them there. And so then that's the other thing that we're looking for with some of the work that's going on with Studer and looking at those engagement surveys and what's happening within those buildings.
These numbers also include terminations by their employer too, right? Okay.
Thank you, Board. And Director Kemp, I didn't want to miss you over if you had any questions or comments. And if, okay, 1 second. Well, while we wait for that to get worked out, I just want to, lots of nodding heads, I think, during the last couple of minutes when, a lot of us were talking about classified staff and reasons why they might be leaving the district. That was the one question that I asked. And so thank you for Vice Chair and others for kicking us off with that particular question. But I think you all responded in a great way that is, I think, sufficient for the board to know and understand that, exit interviews, right, the engagement surveys are all really important. And I think I just also want us to encourage us to think about the prevention, right? So like even before people are like wanting to leave or they're setting their sight on future opportunities, how are the retention, right? How are we creating a culture here, whether that's pay play or community or, whatever it is, creating that, support with management, for example, right, where people want to stay here and particularly among, the classified positions. So I just want to, I know you all understand that, but I think, I think coming back to us next year with hopefully better information, better data, again, all of this information, super great. But I think that is the one thing that I'm sort of hearing us say a little bit is like, we'd love to hear more about, again, how do we really retain, those folks there who are, doing a lot of incredible work, right, in our district. And sometimes, I think sometimes we just need to be able to just support them more in the work that they do and in the sectors that they're in. So, so thank you for this presentation and for, giving us some really kind of positive news at the beginning of the school year. Keep it up. And just one final question that I do have is, how can the board support you all? We've asked a lot of you tonight.
I would say definitely to tell other people about North Clackamas and the work that is done by the amazing staff here. If you're on social media and you follow NK12, anyway, our social media pages, because as things get posted, if you reshare them, that's helpful. If you have a LinkedIn page, our jobs are also on there, so if you could reshare them. So it's really about trying to make connections with people that we already have connections with and your network. So that is helpful from a recruitment perspective.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And is Director Kemp on and would like to say something? Okay. Director Kemp?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you. Thank you all again. Okay, we are doing great on time and just moving along here. So we have agenda number 4 is up, and this is on integrated programs. This is an annual report, and we're going to do a little bit of switching around here with some of our guests. And I welcome now our Student and Family Services Director, Dr. Kalia Williams-Rodriguez, who will introduce our guests.
Good evening. Happy Thursday. It is with great pleasure that I get to work with Director Jen Kiltow, and she's going to share lots of great information about integrated programs.
Good evening, everybody. Always a pleasure to be in front of you and report out to you. Tonight, my report is it's the annual report for integrated programs specific to the student investment account. As recipients of funding from the student investment account, we are legally required to submit an annual progress report, complete a financial audit, and present these findings at a public board meeting. And while this is a necessary obligation, I really find this as an opportunity to just express my immense pride in our district and the way that we strategically invest these funds to better serve our students and our community. Between our board and our department chairs and our superintendent, and our community, a lot of really thoughtful planning has been put in place for how we choose to spend these funds. So to offer some clarity and some support, there are 9 distinct programs under the umbrella of integrated programs. While each program has historically operated independently, they share common elements and objectives, which interestingly and importantly, align really well with our district's strategic plan, which this just creates a stronger connection between our objectives as a district and the goals that are within all of these programs. The Oregon Department of Education consolidated these programs under the umbrella of integrated programs in an attempt to streamline district planning, reporting, and fund allocation. And tonight, again, we'll focus on the student investment account as it has specific reporting requirements attached to it. The money we get from SIA is a very small percentage of our overall operating budget, and that's important to remember because when we talk about the SIA funds, the Student Success Act, it requires us to spend these monies on really targeted, supported focal groups of students within our community. And those are students that have historically experienced academic disparities. So as a district, we participated in an extensive needs assessment during the 22-23 school year, which included a data review and community, staff, and student engagement processes. And key themes that emerged from our needs assessment that were identified as most urgent were class size and caseload reduction, providing a well-rounded, equitable education where students see themselves reflected in the staff, in the curriculum, and then in our instructional practices. Increasing academic achievements of students while reducing barriers and academic disparities for those focal groups of students. Supporting the behavioral and mental health needs of students and families. And providing ongoing and meaningful community engagement that's inclusive of race, culture, and linguistics. And these identified priorities shape the development of a 4-year proposal and plan for the student investment account funds. Currently, we are in the 2nd year of the first biennium of that plan. For our districts 2023 through 2027, 4-year integrated plan, we use the 5 key themes to create targeted outcomes. And these outcomes align with our established goals and objectives as a district. And we have identified 7 specific outcomes that are going to be outlined in the next 2 slides. And each are supported by tailored strategies and activities that are aimed at making sure that those get successfully implemented and that we have achievement in each of these areas. And so if you think about the outcomes are the big goals, and then our strategies and activities are what we do to reach the outcomes. So outcome A, you can see, is around targeted class size and caseload reduction. Outcome B is to provide professional development and job-embedded coaching. And this was really focused on improving 3rd grade English language arts outcomes and really, again, focused on that job-embedded coaching and professional development for our kindergarten through 2nd grade teachers, so our primary grade teachers. Outcome C was around increasing the recruitment and retention of a diverse staff that reflects our demographics, which you heard about tonight. Outcome D was around expanding college and career support, access, and readiness for our historically underserved students. Outcome E was around learning opportunities to close the achievement gap and reduce barriers for our focal students in these key areas: 3rd grade reading for English language arts benchmarks, 9th grade on track, and 4-year graduation rates. Outcome F is around ensuring students' mental health, social, emotional, and behavioral needs are met. And finally, outcome G, providing ongoing community engagement. This is a breakdown of how we invested in each of the different areas. There, in your board report, there is a more detailed budget that we can talk through if you have questions. So as a district, SIA allocation for 23-24 school year was just over $15 million. And just to note, what you see here, there is a little bit of discrepancy that isn't accounted for in the line item budgets. And this allows flexibility in covering additional costs that can arise in these areas. So things like time carding staff for meetings, if a contract comes in a little higher than we expect, things like that. Ultimately, we spend every penny. Every cent is allocated to us, and we use it intentionally for the strategies and outlined in our plan, and our expenditures are documented and reported quarterly to the Oregon Department of Education. So as part of the requirements for the annual report, ODE has 2 specific questions for us to answer. We are asked to report on 1 outcome where we see progress in implementation, and 1 outcome where we see challenges or barriers to implementation. So when we talk progress, and I talk pride in what our district does, we look at outcome F. And outcome F is ensuring students' mental health, social, emotional, and behavioral needs are met by qualified professionals in our schools and lead to an increased sense of belonging among students, as well as ultimately improving graduation and attendance rates. So as you can see here, these are the investments that we have made through the student investment account to our district. We have invested in mental health therapists. We have contracted with Stronger Oregon as well as Trillium Family Services to provide on-campus access for mental health, to remove the barrier of students needing to go off campus elsewhere to meet a mental health therapist. And this really just offers ongoing supports to kids. They also do preventative work. So part of our contract with them is to do preventative work. In our elementary schools, we have regulation spaces, which are calming environments where our students learn to manage their emotions in safe and supportive ways. And they're taught essential skills to cope with regulation lagging areas. And so that ultimately leads to long-term emotional resilience and stability. Our school counselors are pivotal, of course, in supporting students academically and emotionally. They provide early mental health supports. They support students just around general emotional concerns, coaching of students on things like how to make friends as a first grader. Our high school counselors are critical to supporting students in their academic journeys and getting them to achieve their dreams of whatever college and career aspirations they may have. Our student and community engagement specialists strengthen the connections between home and school and ensure that students' needs are met both in and out of the classrooms. And these are individuals who have deep cultural connections to the community and really understand how to support families and school and connect the two. Our restorative justice specialists at the middle schools play a role in resolving conflicts that come up and do so in a constructive way that continues to foster accountability and reinforce positive school climates. Our district social workers help navigate challenges, everything from poverty to homelessness to family instabilities, and can provide resources and connect families and students to outside resources. And then, of course, there's the Wichita Center and our McKinney-Vento staff that continue to be just a cornerstone in our community to support our families by providing food and clothing and housing assistance. And they work really hard to reduce those external factors, the stressors for our families and students, so that students don't have to worry about food and they don't have to worry about clothing, and they can just go to classroom like everybody else and look like their peers and know that they're cared for. And ultimately that just raises their academic achievements. So each of these investments are important in and of themselves, but really when you bring them together, they create a really comprehensive support system that we've created. And it ensures that our students have the resources that they need to thrive, both academically as well as emotionally. But then we have some barriers, and it's okay to know that these barriers are real and that as you heard tonight, we're making significant progress in addressing them. And the first one is an ongoing barrier is in hiring and retaining staff, particularly staff of color. And our efforts are paying off. But when we started this in 23-24, our staffing shortages and desire to hire more staff of color really was reflecting more beyond North Clackamas. It was a much broader statewide issue. And it directly affects our ability to meet the diverse needs of our students and to promote an inclusive school environment that reflects the community at large. We know that research shows that educator shortages disproportionately affect students of color, students from low income backgrounds, and students with disabilities. And our human resources, again, they work really hard to expand recruitment and retention strategies to help reduce this issue as much as possible. Additionally, rising costs and inflation continue to drive up staff-related expenses, which pose a challenge to maintaining a grant like this that is primarily people-focused. So compounding this is the uncertainty of adequate staffing, adequate state funding. SIA is designed to reduce disparities and improve student outcomes, but fluctuations in state funding levels make it difficult to plan for long-term staffing commitments. So we recognize the urgent need for things like mental health professionals. It's also difficult to commit to new hires and contracts when there's a risk of needing to reduce existing staff if funding decreases. These barriers, although, you know, a lot of time and energy is put towards reacting to operational challenges, we know that we have an obligation to our community and to our students to do our very best to support them with the needs that they're bringing to us. And so we know that as we move forward in this process of investing these funds, we will continue to listen to our community. So as we move forward with our 4-year plan, our immediate focus is on completing the current biennium cycle, which concludes in June, and concurrently, we will submit our intent to apply for funding for the next biennium, so for 25-27. And a key component of this process involves engaging our community to gather feedback. And we'll use initiatives like the Youth Truth Survey and the community conversations as a means to elicit those, the feedback that we're looking for. And we love talking to our kids, so we'll go out and we'll talk to the kids too. And provide opportunities for them to give us feedback in a variety of ways. And all this input will inform the creation and submission of our plan and budget for the upcoming biennium. I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Thank you. Board, do we have some questions? And Director McVeigh? Yes.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment that I've known other school districts and their SIA plans, and I just want to say thank you. Our plan, your plan, all of your plan is very thoughtful, and it's not just a plan. It's just a way of doing business, and I just really want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. Director Dobson?
Yes, thank you very much. And this is a question and a compliment, I guess. I had taken note earlier in your presentation when it sounded like you were only going to address, a couple of those outcomes. And I made a note to myself to ask at the end about outcome C, because I didn't think that you were going to address that as the 2 examples that you used. So first, I just want to say thank you so much for recognizing that outcome C is important, that the staff diversity, hiring and retention is an area that we're struggling in, and I just feel really lucky to be serving in a place where someone's paying attention to that. I recalled from an earlier presentation, I think our student our levels of student diversity are around like 46%, and staff is around 22. And that's a really significant differential, especially when you're a kid that doesn't look like any of their teachers. And so again, thank you for recognizing it and calling it out. There are no problems that we can solve overnight, and certainly not, with the budget instability that Oregon public education has faced in the last 40 years. But recognizing what the problems are, naming them, and working on them it's a huge step. Not every district does it, and I'm really grateful that you guys do. And with that being said, my question is, what are we doing? What are we doing about those numbers?
about the recruitment and retention.
Yes.
Well, I would reflect back on the presentation from earlier tonight, and they're really working hard for us. For us, I mean our students and our staff to do whatever it takes to get folks in here to North Clackamas. They are going above and beyond what I see as what we've done in the past. By purposefully going out into the community, by holding recruitment opportunities outside of our district office, by thinking outside the box. I feel like, I should say, what I also know is in the state of Oregon, we are predominantly, largely a white state. Demographically, and the small percentage of staff of color that we're trying to get, so are all of our neighboring districts. And so that is a unique challenge for us, is if we are recruiting folks from other districts, that means they're leaving their districts to come to us, and that's great for kids in North Clackamas. And what does that mean for kids in other districts and vice versa when staff leave us? So it's a challenge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members? I do have some questions. Yep, Director Wachter.
Well, thank you for such a well-prepared presentation. And even more than that, because I know you always present so well, I guess, even more than that, thank you for being a great steward of these SIA funds. Like they really, I can tell that the investment that is made of these funds is holistic, it's well thought out, it's woven together in such a way that creates the opportunity for a caring and supportive community. So just like, that's the real thank you.
Thank you.
And all of the folks that are working on doing that and getting that end, I can see it. So that said, in my usual data drill down style questions, can you tell me more about outcome F? And I know just investing several $1 million into a thing in the first biennium may not yet yield numerically significant results, but what can you tell us a little bit more in the data around how these specific SIA funds impacted mental health, behavioral health access from what to what that we can tie to this investment? Because I think that might be I would hope that would be very motivational to future allocations. Like, we're showing great progress in this area, so have we made progress? And can you be more specific about what kind of progress, especially in access?
Sure. So I'll say a few things. First of all, I'll be coming back in the future to specifically talk to you about what our families and students are saying. So I might be able to get a little more specific at that time in the future. But what I can say is, for example, with our mental health therapists in schools, we have a stronger Oregon therapist, if not 2 or 3 in every one of our schools at this point. So that alone is, although I couldn't tell you exactly the number of students right this minute that are being served, I can tell you that they all have access. The same with Trillium Family Services. They are not they're not in every school, but in many of our schools, there are multiple therapists. That just adds another layer. So number wise, I'm happy to either report out in a future meeting, or I can send you some statistics. That's easy enough. I think the other piece of this is we're just in the first year of, like, this is the first year. And so we really do need multiple years to really see what the ultimate outcome is going to be. So we need some more time for implementation. There are things in here that we have planned, like our district social workers. How do you quantify or how a social worker impacts a family and the needs of that student? Some of these are a little more difficult to give really specific data on, but we can, through conversations with our families and our students, we can give you more qualitative data.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know where we're going for. What's the target that we're in access? Like, access is access unless you define it, right?
Sure.
How everyone has access, but it takes 19 weeks to get seen. Like, I'd love for our schools to be a blue zone for mental health access. And Oregon ranks 49th of 50 states in mental health access for adults and youth. So how do we like really show progress in access, meaningful access for our students? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, great. Vice Chair Benaloga, you're next.
All right, thank you. I want to thank you so much. You know, I know how important these funds are to the district, and I so appreciate the stewardship that we're looking for outcomes and that we're really working on it. You know, there was a meeting the other night and it asked, the exit survey was ranking all of these things, how important they were. And it's so hard for me because all of outcome A through Z, actually, they're all a 10. They're the most important. And it's so difficult, I know, because all of these outcomes are so incredibly important for our kids. And what I want our community to understand is how people heavy this is. And the instability in funding is a huge issue for districts because it's so hard to scaffold these programs and to get amazing staff. As we just heard a little while ago, how hard it is to get the staff and then not to have that stable funding that we can keep that line and that scaffolding of people around. So thank you for your dedication and for always thinking outside the box and for finding creative ways to make A through G a number one priority. I love that. I also want to just say that I really appreciate the commitment and of the Wichita Center. I think it's huge. I think that the fact that it remained where it is, that it's in the district, that it's in the location that it is, that we've housed so many helpful programs in the same place, I just think it's invaluable. And I think that as we go forward and we use these dollars and we use the spaces that we have, and again, we give this more time over the next biennium, I think I really hope to see, as Director Wachter is asking for those data points and so we're putting more bodies in and we're definitely working on the social workers, the counselors, the engagement specialists, their boots on the ground. So now I'm just really looking forward to see what kind of data and what outcomes we have for not only for these outcomes, but for all the rest. So important. It's just such amazing work that you're doing and really appreciate just the dedication to the funds and the dedication to our community.
It's definitely a group effort. Everybody in this room has their hands in guiding the work that's being done, for sure.
Director Bauer.
Thank you, Chairway. I appreciate this ongoing and meaningful community input to engagement that you're doing. And I know initially you went everywhere. And
sure
the
did.
places that I heard, you went to neighborhoods, but you're still engaging students and you're still doing some of that. Or we do have the Educational Equity Committee and the Youth Equity, and there might be some opportunities there. I don't know if you have,
Absolutely.
thoughts of
The-
visiting them
the
and some of our
youth-
leaders and affinity groups. And,
Yeah, the Youth Equity Committee is definitely on my list of folks I want to visit. Our student and community engagement specialists are amazing at getting me in front of groups of families that they serve to get feedback specifically from our focal families. So I really rely on them for opportunities. Kalia runs the community conversations, and this year one of those will focus around this topic. And so we have different ways that we can elicit feedback from the community that really is more of a personal than sending out a survey or something. I mean, we do those things too, and we do get good information from that, but there's something about sitting down with the family and just having conversations.
Yeah, so thank you for doing that. I know you've done a lot of that in the past. I just want to comment on, and I'm glad you brought up funding, because we are people oriented. And until we get enough and pay teachers enough and pay all of our staff enough, we aren't going to be, retaining, recruiting. When young people make decisions about what they're going to do in their life, they have to pay their bills too. So for the work that our staff does is not always recognized by their pay. So I'm glad that that was brought up earlier. And when you think of people that are diverse, I remember former board member Lieber Ford saying that when you have a person of color and they can make $250,000 or $150,000 in science or another business career, are they going to choose teaching? Until we get some of that figured out, that makes it even more difficult. So I just wanted to mention that. And I do look at this as an accountability report, because that's something we keep hearing of as board members from OSBA and from the legislature. And so thank you for all of the work and the data that you are providing, and these targets and addressing all of this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of comments, but I just, again, this is really great information, and I just want to echo what Director Dobson, Director Wachter, just many of us are sort of repeating here at the dais, which is this is really great information. We know that this was just, cross-cultural, cross-collaboration teamwork of multiple divisions, multiple people coming together over the last couple of years to, really ask community and do some prioritization and really having an equity lens. And we're here now and we're full on implementing and we're figuring out what is working, what's not, and obviously, reassessing a lot of things and still making progress. And so all that to say, thank you for the work that you all have started in keeping, that equity lens on the forefront of this. And again, looking at, the students that are, the student populations, right, that the SIA has charged us with serving. So some of my questions are, or some of my comments are directed towards this sort of, again, I think some direction, right, from the board to get more clarity around data points and outcomes and really looking more at specific metrics, especially around, I think, the outcome F, but then really all of the outcomes to be frank, because, these all look really great, but I think unless we kind of see more concrete, like, these are the types of student populations that we're serving. I remember when I think the first rollout of this plan came forward to the board, and there were really specific, even like, down to program of like, we're hiring like Pacific Islander, for example, like student, support specialists. It was just very specific. And I think that was sort of the granular level of detail that the board wanted to see. So I think, again, just, you've heard it from all of us, but I just wanted to share back that would be incredibly helpful, Jen, as you come back and give us more information and updates. And then, the thing that I also just keep looking back, because this is in front of all of the board members, and sometimes I forget it's there because we have a lot that we also have to just think about all the time as board members. But, one of the things is our strategic plan, right? And it's 2022 to 2027, and we are in the final biennium, 2025, 2027 of this plan. And as I'm looking at this right here, we have a next opportunity to apply for funds for the next biennium. So I guess this would be a question for you, but it could also be for Superintendent James or Director Shireman. But how are we linking all of this to our strategic plan? And what are we, because I think as a board, like that is one of the things that we look at really closely is our strategic plan is our North Star, and that also has a lot of community engagement and input from different groups. So how are we kind of linking these things together so that, you know, it's not, I mean, the information can be like streamlined and it could be, you know, so that it could all fit together.
Of course. I don't think I can give an exhaustive answer, but I can give some highlights. One is, as you look at our strategic plan on the back, each of the 4 points, each of those points has under it some key strategies. Those strategies align with the outcomes pretty closely. That's something that's purposeful. So as Jen and the team that worked on this, they really did look at it through those 4 different pillars of student achievement all the way to resources and services. So I can say from a really overarching planning perspective, yes, those dovetail. I'm seeing your outcome questions. I've taken some notes on that. We'll see what we can do as we move forward and certainly into the next presentation about SIA.
Great.
For
Thank
sure.
you. And I think Director Bauer mentioned this, but we have some amazing committees that, you know, youth, whether it's the youth or the youth and the parent equity group and the affinity groups, and I think all of our schools. And so just continuing to, I think, you know, high level of engagement and feedback with those groups moving forward would also be really important. So thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. I know we have to move ahead, and I'm just, you know, if other board members have other follow-up questions around this or other things, please feel free to also email. Thank you.
Thank you.
So our, I believe this is our last agenda item for the evening, and we are on policy revisions. So this is a discussion item, and I would like to welcome our Chief of Staff, Tiffany Sharman.
Thank you. Yes, I am here tonight with a discussion item only. We're not seeking action tonight. I am bringing forward a set of policies that the superintendent's policy review team has reviewed and supports the proposed policy changes in your packet. This one's a little bit different than sometimes when I come. Sometimes I come where they really have come about for a variety of reasons. All of the policies in your packet, the proposed changes, are coming forward because of the same reason. And that is that in the state of Oregon, we have Oregon administrative rules. And one of those Oregon administrative rules was changed not too long ago to include that each school district will develop a prevention-oriented written student health services plan. So that plan encompasses a lot of things, everything from mention around first aid to communicable disease transmission, etc. Those are things that have been in policy. So as you start to look in the board packet here, you'll see that we have 4 policies that we're proposing for revisions, 4 policies for deletions, and that's because a lot of information is moving out from policy and into this plan now that the school district is required to produce. We have developed a compliant health services plan as required. It's not yet robust. It's not yet strong. We're building it out from a real skeleton that it's in now. It's with Director Kiltau's leadership and a whole team that she's working with to help to build that out and make sure that we make it as robust as we want it to be. But what's happening then is we're removing information from policy, putting it in this new state plan. You're seeing this in districts all around the state. I do want to make sure that you know that, because I think it's an assurance that you deserve, is that as these policy changes are being proposed, there's nothing in this policy change where we're taking out words or moving it to the plan. Nothing is going to reduce any services to students. Nothing is going to minimize something that currently exists in policy. It will just move. So I want to make sure that you're assured of that, because I know that you have pages of mark out and strike out and deletion, and I know that it's hard to track every detail. But that is something we had a team come together 3 times to really work through and make sure that we're not losing anything in the details there. So with that, you have 4 proposed policies that have revisions to them, and then 4 deletions. I do stand available for any questions if you have any.
No question, just a comment. Not, I don't always agree with the state of Oregon, but putting those things into a plan says we're going to have a plan to deal with these things. And so that's much better than a policy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dobson.
Did anyone on the team note anything that's falling off of policy that's not included in the plan?
We didn't. No. And if we discover that, we will either be back with you, because the intention of the whole group, there really was no intention of changing the service, other than as we go through things, we may notice things that we need to augment, right? Because it's getting a relook. So thank you. I do think it's fair to mention one thing that this will allow too is if we're in an outbreak situation or a real communicable disease situation challenge, we'll be able to move a little faster. We won't be moving policy each time. We'll be able to really respond to whatever the county is saying. Of course, we have an obligation in all of our policy to keep you aware and abreast, but I do think that that's part of what the state was seeking.
I do have just one question, but so when you go on our website, we're very transparent about listing all of our different policies, and anybody can look up, the policy information, the detailed description. So with these changes, will we have something on our website or on that page just to, tell people that because of changes in state law, rest assured that we still have a plan in place to address these different types of health related, things, but they're just moving to a different place.
I can't comment exactly where it is, but for instance, our communicable disease plans for each school are noted and available. The plan itself, like I said, we're building it out. We tend not to post when something just simply compliant. We want to get it to be as robust as it really deserves to be, and that'll take a little bit of time, but yes.
Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you. Oh, and Director Bauer, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. This must have been a lot of work for your committee. Just going through it, I just had a few little minor changes that maybe I can just talk with you later.
Yes,
There was one strange comment though about what they report to OSHA and they don't. And they said other than first aid, loss of an eye, amputation, that just seems strange.
Let's do, we can connect, and then
Okay.
if for some reason there's something that is substantial that you find, which would not surprise, I mean, this is a lot of mark throughs, we would bring it to your attention.
But it
in
does
the
say
agenda
there was a
item next.
note that it is according to the OAR, so you're following that. It just didn't make sense. the
Typically,
reasoning.
things with OSHA, we just use OAR language.
what I
We don't
figured.
really freelance much there.
Yeah. I know you can't because it's a law, but it just seems so strange. There must
Yes,
be a background story somewhere.
probably.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Director Showerman, for being here. I believe that this concludes our meeting this evening. So already said my joke earlier, so if you missed it, you're just going to have to rewatch the first 5 minutes or so of the board meeting. But thank you everyone again for this meeting. Really great discussion, really great informational topics that have been brought forward to us. So it is now 8:21 p.m. and this public meeting of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors is adjourned. Have a good evening.